This episode of Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy.com.
And by Ting.com. Head over to last.ting.com and save $25 off your first device.
Welcome to the Linux Action Show, Season 29, Episode 7. My name is Chris.
My name's Matt.
Hey, Matt. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Should I tell folks about the big show today?
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, coming up on this week's episode of the Linux Action Show, we're going to review openSUSE 13.1.
Nice.
This is a complicated release with a lot to look at, so we're going to take a look at several different desktop options with openSUSE, cover some of the interesting features, and give you our thoughts on this evergreen release. And then in the news segment, we're going to talk about the big upset that just erupted over the weekend when Linus Torvalds' father was giving testimony on Linus being approached to insert an NSA backdoor into Linux.
Real Biden moment, if you ask me. Really was.
It was kind of like, whoa, really?
I'm sure he's thinking next, Dad.
Yeah, I know, right? And the internet's just blowing up just over the weekend. And usually news stories kind of sizzle and then blow up on the weekdays. But no, it's been massive. Plus, there was a big Ubuntu upset this week. And we'll talk about that. And then in the feedback segment, we got an email where somebody was asking us, Matt, Chris, why is there so much hate in the open source world? Why can't
I think it's a fair question. I'm glad they asked the question.
So we'll actually cover that in the feedback segment. But first, Matt, it is our picks, as is per tradition here on the big show. So I wanted to start with a Runs Linux, and since this is our openSUSE review week, I thought it'd be good to do a SUSE Runs Linux pick.
Good stuff.
And we just had SUSECon wrap up over the last week. Remember we talked to Joss right as he was taking off to go there in last week's episode.
Really good interview. Yeah.
In fact, I would say it's recommended watching if you're really interested in openSUSE and you're tuning in for a review. Head over to jupiterbroadcasting.com and go check out last week's episode. You'll see we chatted with Joss from he's the openSUSE community manager. He works for SUSE. And we talked to him about openSUSE 13.1, among other things.
Good stuff. So it's a great interview, and he really gets down to the nitty-gritty of stuff. It was good.
This caps off our 2 weeks of SUSE love, so if you haven't caught last week's episode, that'd be a good one to go see. All right. Well, so we're going to get into all of that, but let's stick with our pick, and SUSECon had a few announcements, and one of them was the Brazilian credit union saves millions by switching to Linux. And it's actually openSUSE Linux, or actually SUSE Enterprise Linux. So the credit union is the sixth largest financial institution in Brazil, and it was hampered by an aging, chaotic IT infrastructure, Matt. They had 310 Linux and Windows Intel servers running 1,056 CPU cores, redlining at 90% CPU and memory, generating 883 BTUs an hour, and costing over $50,000 per month in power bills.
Woo! That is crazy town. And the thing about Brazil, it's like it always shocks me when I hear the word Brazil and Windows in the same sentence, because I mean they do so much in the Linux space. It's like, whoa.
They have over 50 DB2 databases on Linux virtual machines, storing over 22 terabytes of data. The largest database server is the largest database by itself is over 11 terabytes and grows by 300 gigabytes every month. This database stores all their scanned check images, which I implemented one of those at the bank I worked for, and that is a monster. With the old system, they were processing 1 million check images per day. Slowly, the new system running on SUSE Enterprise Linux, 2 million a day with plenty of capacity for more. Now, the final solution is they have mainframe system Z196 equipped with 1.1 gigabytes of RAM, and also a Z10 server with 768 gigabytes of RAM with multiple Linux VMs in a hypervisor. They started with SUSE Enterprise Linux 10. They're now on SUSE Enterprise 11 SP2. They calculated in a savings of 25%, or I'm sorry, they calculate a result in 25% performance increase.
That's a nice, that's
and
a nice
$3
treat.
million in energy costs annually saved.
Boom. See right there, better performance, saving the energy.
Yeah.
Love all across the board.
Yeah, it's interesting to see SUSE specifically focus on some of these mainframe deployments. They've kind of become the friend of the shop that's looking to transition from their traditional mainframe onto an enterprise Linux system. SUSE has been filling that role.
I think that's a smart move for them because it allows them to kind of not only just diversify, but it allows them to really establish themselves as, look, see, we're all about stability, we're all about reliability.
It's a clear differentiator between them and Red Hat to some regard, and they partner with IBM, where IBM is actually deploying the hardware, so they've got like a really good relationship there. It's clever. It's clever.
Very clever.
So very good on them, and they have a picture of kind of an example of the rack. Can I get a bigger? They don't have a bigger version of it.
Nice rack.
Yeah, I like all the lights, man. I'm a sucker. That's obviously a little on the demo. But
it'd be cool if the picture got bigger, but
yeah.
cool. That's still pretty cool.
All right, Matt. Well, I want to stop and thank our first sponsor this week. Now, you guys know who this is. It is GoDaddy. Now, they're kicking things up a notch, and I'm not even talking about between two moving semi-trucks going down the road backwards while somebody's doing the
Zen
splits.
and music and the whole bit.
Although that is quite epic. No, what I'm talking about is GoDaddy's new website builder. Linux Action Show is brought to you by GoDaddy, and their website builder makes it easy to create your own website, put your business online, and find new customers. Choose from hundreds of customizable designs, and you're on your way. Website builder even includes a free domain, hosting, and 24/7 support. It is go time! Woo! So visit GoDaddy.com and enter the promo code WSB6 to get website builder for $1 per month for 12 months. That includes the domain, the hosting, and 24/7 support for $1 a month for 12 months. WSB6. WSB6, Website Builder 6, when you check out over at GoDaddy. We've had a lot of people in the community, it just started going off in the IRC room saying, I'm going to do this, and the ideas have been spreading. People are creating sites that they own, that when people now search for them, they're hitting those sites. And there's also a lot of potential here, like as you go to family during like Thanksgiving, and people say, hey, insert name of you're the IT guy or you're the tech guy in the family.
We all know how that goes. This is going to save you a ton of time.
This is point them at this.
Yep.
Also, one of the other nice things about it is not only they're going to get the support, so that's something you don't have to worry about as much, but that also spins off mobile versions and SEO-friendly versions of the site, so you don't have to worry about that either.
Love that.
That's great for just people who don't have a lot of time. That's great for people who don't understand the technology. There's a lot of
don't want to keep up with it,
diversification.
because quite frankly, people like me, I'm done. I don't care. I just want it to work, and this allows me to bop in, get it done.
I'm checking out,
bam,
man.
bam, thank you, ma'am.
I'm done with this SEO game.
But I want the website. I want it to rank.
Right.
And so this allows me
and
to
you
do
want
it.
it to look nice, and they're integrating the hosting and the top-end software that manages the site and spins off the mobile version, so they've got a good suite there that runs reliably, that scales on the GoDaddy systems, and for $1 a month, you really can't go wrong.
It's a no-brainer.
So go use our code WSB6 when you check out over at GoDaddy.com and get the website builder with the domain, the hosting, and the support for $1 per month for a year.
Love it.
Big thank you to GoDaddy for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Good stuff.
All right, Matt. So I want to talk about Smoke Ping.
Oh,
it's a little more of a servery desktop pick.
I kind of like it. I kind of like the whole premise.
And to help people wrap their noodles around it, I linked to a Linux journal write-up that Sean Powers wrote, and it's called "Fight the Good Fight" with Smoke Ping, and he kind of goes through it in more detail. It's pretty easy to get going and set up. I've been running it for about 6 months at my house, and because this is also where we do our business for the Jupiter Broadcasting, and we do our streaming for the live stream. And so I need to kind of and I need to upload files. I need really good performance. And
you need to know what's going down.
I totally need to kind of have an eye on what's going on, so that way if the stream isn't working, I kind of have an idea where the fault lies. So Smoke Ping is running on an Ubuntu box that I have here in my house, and I've just had it for like 6 months, and it just one of those things, once you set it up, that it's super easy. I've actually talked about it in a previous Linux Action Show. So if you dig through the archives, you can find it. And the reason I'm pulling this out and making it a pick now, even though we talked about it a little bit before, is I've recently just had a couple of exchanges with folks who've sent this in as an app pick, and they're either new viewers or because it was included with a whole nother like lineup of apps we were talking about, they kind of lost it in the noise. So I wanted to pull it out and focus on this because it's so handy once you need it. So here up on my screen, if you're watching the video version, I have a couple of categories. I have my local network, I have North America, I have Edge. What I mean by Edge is the edge of my connection with my ISP. I have Scale Engine because I'm, the Jupiter Broadcasting Network so heavily dependent on Scale Engine. I have Google as sort of a baseline, and then I have systems in Europe, so I kind of have a picture of what our whole around the world kind of...
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that makes sense.
So here you can see in the North American connectivity, what I have right here is the first router beyond Frontier's network, where Frontier bridges with level 3. And the reason I've done this is because if we're having some kind of, which we have had from time to time, more so recently, like here's a great example, Matt. You can see in the last 30 hours, my latency went up to 400 milliseconds for a little while. Really a bunch of... So if we were doing the show right now and the stream was dropping...
Yeah, that would have been just
This would be an indicator of like, okay, so we're having a problem where Frontier talks to level 3. And there's nothing I can do about that, right?
That's totally out of your hands.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. You can see in here. You can see in the perspective here. So this right here is the last 10 days. This chart, and you can see on day 16, towards the end of day 16, it really went. You can see they're starting to have problems the day before.
Yeah, it looks like.
In fact, look at this. It kind of ramps up, doesn't it? It gives you some. It gives you, and here's the last year. So it's not the worst I've had, but it's definitely in the top 3. And it kind of gives me an idea of how bad of a situation I'm having.
Yeah.
Now I can also go out here to like here's local. Here's my local stuff. So I can see that my connection to my router from my server is under a millisecond.
Right.
That's awesome, right?
Well, this is helpful for me because I'm pretty sure as far as the location hubs that we were using, I think
probably the same.
Probably the same.
Yeah.
Because I think I get Everett.
You can see here I am talking to the first route outside of my house. So this is just me talking to my ISP's network. I'm getting on average below a 2 millisecond ping time. But then you can see up here
Like,
during
my
that big outage, I got up to 300 milliseconds just talking to the first machine in my ISP's network. So
and this was during the outage, right? That you're showing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the problem was pretty widespread. Now let's see if I go over. So if I go back here to North America and I do Scale Engine, I can check out. So here is my line. You can see this is pretty steady. This is the storage backend that I upload when I'm going to the CDN. So I could see that this outage would have affected my upload times to Scale Engine as well. So that's good. And then here's the Scale Engine system that we connect to for live streaming. So you can see about 10 o'clock this morning there was a peak in latency, but nothing too bad. Now that the show's
kind of came
underway,
down a little bit. It looks like
it's back at the baseline. But and I can tell you actually see where this chart here is peaking
just
way
scary
out.
looking. I mean, good.
We actually did that. My house lost connectivity to the live stream and to the IRC during that time. So, but this correlates it, right? I can go back and see. Oh yeah, that's why we disconnected. There was definitely something going on. I know it wasn't like a network card blip. I know it wasn't my firewall, my router, and I could even go out and like I'll do baselines here of how's Google's DNS server responding, right? So that was impacted. So it looks like almost everything was affected by that outage.
Crazy. Well, what I like about it is it's a nice balance of both the visuals as well as the data. So I'm a very visual person.
You can keep drilling in. So you can click on each graph. So so any of the graphs here on this page, I can click in on, right? So let's say I was clicking on this, and then once I'm all the way in, I can click and drag on that, and I can zoom into just that time and get really fine metrics.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, isn't that neat?
Right?
And so I can really kind of see the
patterns and whatnot.
I can see the nuances right here. So, man, I was really trying to upload right here, and I can really see this thing was flapping. You know?
Yeah, it's basically like a wingless duck or something.
A penguin?
A penguin, yeah, like a penguin.
So that's Smoke Ping. It's absolutely totally free. It uses RRD to do the logging, which if you're hip to that, you know that's a good thing. And I'm running version 2.68. I don't know, this might be a couple of iterations old by now, but nonetheless,
that's good to know.
Very handy.
I think I might set something like that up. I have an old solid state. They're not around anymore, so it doesn't matter. I have an old Zombu box, like one of the little minis. I might I think it has like a compact flash or something like that. I might slap something on there and see how that works out.
Well, and if you are in a company and you have a lot of remote WAN links that you need to like, you guys are transferring files over, or you got VPNs between them, or whatever it is. You sit this thing up at the central office or even at the remote office, and then you can kind of get a health check on how your WAN links are going. Yeah. And then when users start complaining, man, it's really slow when I pull this file up, or it's really slow when this happens, you can go refer to this and say, oh, yeah, well, we've had a lot of traffic here. And this doesn't tell you the whole picture, but at least tells you there is something going up, and it gives you a date range of when that's happening. And that right there can be a huge starting point for troubleshooting.
Definitely.
All right, Matt. So I wanted to do the weekly spotlight this week, and I thought there is something we've been talking a lot about, and I'm going to be a little obnoxious, but there's just some cool things in open source that sometimes I just feel like we need to spend time talking about. Sure. And one of them that we've talked a little bit about now is this KDE Connect. We talked about it last week with Joss, and he said it is the support for it is shipping with 13.1 openSUSE.
So awesome.
So I thought this would be a good work to play around with it. Now, I actually have it set up here on my Arch box, and a thank you to a viewer out there, William, who emailed me and said, hey, by the way, it's working on Arch again. So once you install it, you get a little KDE icon on your phone, and it's
really obviously KDE too. You just pop that.
It's deceptively easy to use too. Let me just say that. So here, I'll pull it up right here. So there's a component you install on your KDE machine, and then there is an app you install that's free in the Google Play Store. Once you get that loaded, you launch it on both systems, and they start to talk. They don't trust each other. But it does a UDP broadcast, both of them on the network, because you have to have them on the same network, so on Wi-Fi, right? You have to have your phone on Wi-Fi. They broadcast and they see each other. Then once and you can see here, Matt, like you see how it just lists Action Arch.
Oh yeah,
right there
it does. And then of course on your desktop, it also.
And then on my desktop, it lists the HTC One right there. So once they see each other, you say, okay, go ahead and pair up, right? And then they pair up. Oh, yeah. And then once they're paired, which is really easy to do and really quick, you have a list of options of the things you want to share. So like the battery monitor, so I can get the battery status of my Android phone from my KDE desktop.
I really like that because that's something I would love.
Yeah, just check where your phone's at. And remember, your phone, right, it could be upstairs on your bedroom, on your next to your bed, charging or unplugged. But if as long as it's on the Wi-Fi, you can see where it's at, anywhere in your house from your machine. You get the battery, clipboard, multimedia control, notification sync, which I'm going to try to show off here. You can send ping amongst each other's, share and receive files, and telephony integration. So this is like when a call comes in, you get a little pop-up. So here, let me zoom out so you can see my full desktop. So down here in my notification tray area, I have a little KDE Connect icon.
Okay.
And if I click that, that is the notification tray on my HTC One, which is right now, it's empty. So let me...
Maybe do Waze or something?
I'll try to, I'll fire up Waze, and usually Waze puts a little thing says, hey, Waze is running, and I'll tap Waze. So now I see in my notification tray on my phone, I see Waze is running. So now if I bring it up on my HTC One, there you go.
Okay.
See Waze, right?
Oh, nice. And that's also nice to know that, hey, you're still running this, by the way. You might want to be aware of that.
Well, that's funny because I've only been using this for a couple of days, but so my HTC One does a little, I have a little tweet noise that it makes when the battery's running low, and it's reminding me when it's about 14% to plug it in. And but the problem is at some point I reset all my sounds to just be the generic notifications.
Yeah, right. You're not going to pay. I don't pay any attention to.
So I just hear I hear the tweet, and I'm like, is that an instant message? Is that an email? What is that?
Do
right?
I care? Yeah.
Right. So and my phone, it wasn't even that far away, but it was like on the other side of the room, and I'm like, hey,
well,
you know
me,
what?
if it's like I'm on the couch, it's across the room. That's not going to happen.
So for me, what I did is I just clicked on my my little notification area right here, and it just came up and said, oh yeah, battery guru says I need to plug in my phone, and then. I can clear individual notifications. When I got a phone call, I get a little notification in here. When I get a text message, it comes in here. Yeah, it is really neat. And it all kind of works with this little plasma widget right here. And you can remove it and still have some of the functionality, but it's pretty damn cool.
I think that's something. This is what keeps pulling me back to KDE. It's just like, oh, that's so cool. I really want that feature.
On the blog that I'll link to in the show notes, they talk about how they set up the encryption between devices and how that works. So if you're a little worried about that, here's a screenshot of how.
Really appreciate the fact they do that too, because you kind of wonder how all that works behind the scenes.
So there's an example, so that you can see right there. Here's a Foursquare alert. When I plug in the USB port to charge it, I get a little notification that the USB's been plugged in. And again, it's just so neat that it can be anywhere in the house, and I still get the alerts here on my computer. I think that's pretty cool. So anyways, that's called KDE Connect. It's getting available for more and more distros. It's in the openSUSE 13.1 repo. I believe there's a PPA out there, and it's in the Arch user repository. Those are the places I've seen it right now. I'm not sure. I'm sure other distros you can get it in a repo near you.
And of course, Arch as well apparently will support that.
Yeah, I just pulled it right down from the user repo and built it. And last week that I did try it, there was a little bit of a bug, but this week it's all taken care of.
Yay!
All right, Matt. Well, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com, Matt. Ting is mobile that makes sense, and Ting is our mobile service provider. I've got Ting since the beginning of the year. Matt, you've been, what, like 3 months now?
I know. Ting? I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think since we started Unplugged, at least.
Oh, yeah.
So at least 13, 14 weeks.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And Ting is just pulling out all of the punches. Let me tell you, they got some new stuff coming that you guys are probably going to be pretty excited about. But first, I got to tell you the basics. So Ting is no contracts, no early termination fees, and get ready for this. Yes, this is kind of a big deal. You only pay for what you use. Ting takes your minutes, your text messages, and your megabytes. They add it all up at the end of the month, whatever bucket you fall into. That's what you end up paying for. So you got your base price of $6 per line. You can have unlimited phones on any account. They all share a pooled set of minutes, whatever they use. You just pay $6 for that line. Also, Ting has excellent customer service. This really stands them out from the competition. You can call them at 1-855-TING-FTW anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and a real person answers the phone who is empowered to solve your problem. I love that. No add-on charges for voicemail, caller ID, tethering, hotspot, or three-way. And also, by the way, you get free, and I don't mean free as in you don't have to pay for it, but free as in you don't have to have a special plan, a special account for the hotspot, which is so nice on the HTC One. So yesterday, we went to a burger joint by my house, and the kids... So the burger joint was really busy, and the kids start to get a little impatient.
Oh yeah, I relate to those kids because honestly, I get bored when I go to a burger place. I can't eat right away, right?
Yeah, I get a little impatient too. So it's so nice to know that I just go right into the settings of my phone. I just check that tether checkbox right there, and I've got tethering, and I don't have to worry about some crazy ding on my bill. I don't have to worry about being on some sort of nutso plan. And also on top of all that, which it really matters to me is, especially somebody who kind of just needs it from time to time. I don't need it all the time.
Exactly.
I just pay for what I use.
And that's the key component for myself right there. Sometimes I use a lot. Sometimes I don't use so much.
Yeah, and every device has Wi-Fi these days. But speaking of devices, It's time to go get your Nexus 5 and bring it to Ting, ladies and gentlemen. Doo, 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 doo. Now, there are a couple of things you should probably read up on. Go to ting.com/blog. They've been tracking all of this for you. So you can order your Nexus 5 directly from the Google Play Store, which I think is huge. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Makes it easy.
I ordered a Nexus 5.
Oh, did you really? I see. I knew this. I knew as soon as it came. It's coming to Ting. He's going to do this. He's going to basically pop it. You know.
I was like, and then they're like, you can get on Ting. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get it. Plus, I love the idea of being able to just buy it from the Play Store. I think that's really cool too.
That's right.
So you need to go get on their SIM priority list though, because the Nexus 5 uses like one of those newer fangled SIM cards.
Oh yeah.
So you can't just put any SIM card in there, and it's not too common for CDMA networks to have GSM type SIM cards either.
That's interesting. Okay.
But this, we're in the LTE world right now, and this is one of those multi-band phones. So you go get on their priority list, and then once you have your Nexus 5 and a SIM card, you can they have a support article where they're constantly updating. They've also got some forum threads of people that are trying it out, and I think this is, I think this is so cool. One of the nicest, pure Google experience Android phones on a network with no contract, no early termination fee. Talk about best of both worlds.
Right?
This is really, you combine all of the awesome aspects of the Nexus 5 with all of the awesome aspects of Ting. Man, it has never been a better time to switch. So go over to last.ting.com. You can take $25 off your first device, or if you bring your own device, like a Sprint-compatible device, they'll take $25 off your first month, and it's really, there's so many great features, so many great reasons to try out Ting. You can check out their savings calculator, too, if you're not convinced yet. Or you can go check out their early termination relief program to help you get out of that contract you might be stuck in.
Loving it.
I can't wait till my Nexus 5 gets here. So a huge thanks to Ting for sponsoring Linux Action Show. And thank you to you guys for visiting last.ting.com. And go start saving right now. Just get it taken care of. With that early termination fee, these great rates, better time than ever. You might as well start saving now.
That's right. Be free. This is the time to do it. They make it easy.
So thanks to Ting for sponsoring the Linux Action Show.
Good stuff. Thank you, guys.
All right, Matt, let's start with the story that is exploding as we go right now. Probably by the time Monday rolls around, there will be another dozen stories written on this. I think it was actually on Friday, during a hearing, the father of Linus Torvalds, Nils Torvalds, he's also a member of the European Parliament for Finland.
Oh, wow.
He took part in a European Parliament's hearing on an ongoing mass surveillance, and he brought a few revelations. So let me back up, though, before we get into it. There was also a Microsoft rep there.
Yeah.
And they questioned the Microsoft rep whether they had been approached by the NSA to install backdoors into Windows. They went on to say, my question to the Microsoft representative was whether she should be allowed to disclose if there are deliberate backdoors in their system in the event that there are. She never responded to that question. So she wouldn't even respond to, could you respond to the question?
Yeah, it's because Microsoft probably approached the NSA. I mean, come on.
But obviously she didn't have to. From other sources, we know the NSA, as always, prohibits private companies and force them into cooperations. They can't disclose any of it. So when Nils Torvalds came on, he said, and this is a quote, when my oldest son, Linus, was asked the same question, has he been approached by the NSA about a backdoor? He said no, but at the same time, he nodded. Then he was sort of in a legal free. He was sort of in the legal free. He had given the right answer, but everybody understood the NSA had approached him. So let's play his father saying that, and then let's go back, because you remember that came from that Linux convention?
Yep.
So we'll play the father's quote, and then we'll play Linus's quote, okay?
Okay.
My oldest son was asked the same question, has he been approached by the NSA about backdoors? Then he said no, but at the same time he nodded, because then he was sort of in the legal free. He had given the right answer, and everybody understood that NSA had approached them. And then we have the third question, the third problem. Mrs. Belt said that there are no backdoors, which is not technically actually true, because you have bad programming.
So that's not exactly, a statement saying. So let's look at Linus's statement when he was asked at the Linux Foundation.
Yeah. So this question: Have any of you been approached by the U.S. for a backdoor? No.
Oh yeah, that was obvious. That was brilliant, though.
No.
So.
Not that I can talk about it.
Yes.
All right, so that's a little weird, right? But we were like, maybe he's just kidding.
Well,
so
I study as a kind of a hobby. I do study body language, and he was lying in the second half, in my opinion. And that's just my personal opinion.
It did seem like he was kind of stuck in a spot there. Now he was contacted by Mashable after that spot, and they said, were you approached by hey Linus, were you approached by the NSA? And he said, and this was in an email back to Mashable. He said, "Oh Christ. It was obviously a joke. No government agency has ever asked me for a backdoor in Linux," Torvalds told Mashable via email. "Really? Cross my heart and hope to die. Really?"
I don't buy it. Again, and this is just my interpretation. Yes, it was overly, explosive there at the beginning, but where it was really telling is when he said, no, he was trying to downplay overdoing it before. The whole thing just feels real weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where to fall down on it.
And I'm no expert. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Because he would be. So here's what people would say: he's legally required to say no, they haven't. Like it's part of you have to, or else you're in trouble. And Marissa Meyer even said as much when she was being interviewed by Michael Arrington. She said that if they talk about it, that it's considered. I don't know. She didn't say espionage, but I forget what she said. Marissa Meyer said it was they get in trouble for it.
Well, when he was talking, because I didn't think to look real close, but what was his eyes doing? If his eyes were going downward, he's hiding something. If they're especially going down, if they're going downward, especially to the right hand side.
Let's pull it up. Oh, now we're getting all.
I'm not going to try and go all Fox News on you here, but I'm just saying that we're trying to look at this logically. I know that usually when you're looking upward, you're trying to recall something.
I like this. Let's go. We'll go.
Let's go.
Crime scene investigation, and we'll zoom and enhance here on Linus.
Yeah. So this question: Have any of you been approached by the U.S. for a backdoor? No.
You can't.
No, that's not part. It's the latter half.
It does seem like it though.
The latter half's where it matters. Okay, I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't tell either.
So.
Yeah. He was, kind of, yeah. So that could go either way.
See, and then he says,
he may be telling the truth.
I don't know, man. That's weird, right?
Because I can't, the body, because if he was going like this, then there's no question he's hiding something.
And you'd have to ask yourself then, how would in an open source kernel, how would you slip something in that eventually, especially one that is so heavily looked at by so many different companies to use in
So the NSA probably doesn't see the numbers as effective, and based on the things that I saw with his head movement, I can't tell.
You can't tell.
I have no idea.
It's a little blurry.
It's totally 50-50. Who knows?
The other thing too is they would have to do it in such a way that people wouldn't notice, and that seems like it'd be pretty tough.
Yeah. I go back to the numbers thing, especially with the perceived numbers of Linux users in their eyes. I think they probably think there's other ways to get a hold of the information they want versus going to something that's public as the Linux kernel.
And like Linus's father said, there's effectively backdoors just because there's vulnerabilities in the software.
Yeah. So, exactly. So at the end of the day, I don't see Linux as being under threat. Microsoft, that's not paranoia. That's just fact.
Yeah. Wasn't there a Windows 2000 source code? I can't remember.
That's not even, come on. I trust me.
They were the first on the PRISM list. Microsoft was the first company to join the PRISM
Anybody
program.
with a half a brain cell knows that Microsoft and the NSA are like that. So that's not paranoia. That's just reality.
All right, should we shake off all
Let's
of this?
shake it off. I'm done.
Shake all this NSA stuff off and talk a little bit about video games. There's a new way for Linux users to buy video games. Now, you might have heard of the Humble Bundle.
I have.
But what about the Humble Store, Matt?
Ooh,
yeah, it just debuted this last week.
Oh my.
This is going to be a fixed store. I think they're going to roll in still time delayed deals where you have a certain window. They're also going to obviously push their other weekly sales here, and still purchases go towards charity, which is neat. So they have a pretty nice way. They're not all Linux games here, but when you mouse over a game, you get
that's helpful.
Yeah, you see where you can. It's on Steam. You can get it for Mac, Windows, and Linux.
Linux.
And let's see. Let's find one that's not. Here's one that's just Windows only, right? Red Faction.
Oh, okay.
But there's a bunch. I mean, look at almost.
Well, that's cool that it feels like at least they're catering to everybody.
Actually, it looks like the vast majority here on their front page are all Linux compatible. And then they have their running list here: Planetary Annihilation, which is super popular right now, available for Linux. And see, they even tell you when it's available for Android right here. DRM free. They have a little DRM free tag.
Oh, nice. That's really cool.
Yeah. And you can also just filter on all Linux games. Now, this is not necessarily a direct competitor to Steam because they're giving you the Steam key too, where you can pull it down in Steam. But it is an alternative if you want to. Okay, so I would say the big advantage to the Humble Store is you can download these tar files and just store them on your own computer. Whereas with Steam, you always have to have Steam to go download the installation. I know there is some kind of backup, but there's the DRM scheme there. Whereas this, if you have those tar files, you got them
You don't
forever,
care.
right?
Exactly.
And they also let you re-download through the Humble Store too, if you want to go back and download them
I think it's a
later.
cool idea, and I think it's a nice alternative to Steam.
Yeah.
As far as even though they're kind of a parallel to one another.
very, and also very indie focused right now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's different variations of how you define indie in some of this stuff, but
True.
like I don't know.
Shank too. Huh?
I don't know. Yeah, Shank's a good one. Here's
I've-
Natural Selection. We've talked about that. Shank is fun. Shank is a side scroller platformer, and it's pretty gruesome.
I just gonna say shank. Picturing prison and shanking.
You shank people, yeah. You go through here and
Oh, I'd play that.
look at that.
Oh, I'd totally play that.
Yeah,
That's
this
awesome.
would be a great one for the teenager. Yeah,
Yeah, right. What is it? $10.
$9.99. Yeah,
Yeah, he gets his stuff done. We'll see.
yeah. Look at he just shot his head
cool.
off.
Oh,
Look at
yeah.
that big
Oh, yeah.
grinder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah. You see, it's pretty
So
gruesome.
this is
man.
this got 17-year-old written all over it. Yeah.
You throwing burning tires, Matt.
Oh, come on.
Taking
I'd play the
chainsaw
hell
to
out of it.
faces, Matt. Yeah,
Let me take a little off the top.
But see, this is so cool. Is $9, right? And
Yeah,
it's DRM free. And then you also you can download the tar file from the Humble Store, but you can also redeem the Steam key. Yeah,
Bunch of them dudes. That's oh my god.
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So you can do Steam and you can do the
yeah,
Humble Indie Bundle.
pretty
option.
nice.
I
And
like
while you
that.
buy, 10% of proceeds go to charity. And as you can see right now, they've already since the store's launched raised $120K for charity.
Looks like they work with the
What-
electronic.
Yeah, the EFF. What's interesting, look at this. They've already integrated in my previous Humble Indie Bundle purchases to the store's library, and I haven't even logged into the store.
I like that.
So here you can see, here's all of the Humble Bundle games. I could just re-download these, and you see I can get the deb, I can get the SH file.
Really, really like how they laid that out. I mean, they don't treat you like you're stupid, but at the same time, it's easy enough for anyone to use.
Yeah, look at all these. See, I got Shank. I got Shank and Shank too. yeah.
Thank you very much.
Look at all these games I've got. Holy
Good
crap.
grief. You got WWW. I don't know what that is.
I got a whole bunch. So
Wow.
anyways,
Cool.
congratulations to the Humble guys. Good to see another store launch you.
Yeah.
Now, here's one that might surprise a few of you. Mozilla says they have no plans to sell Firefox phones in the U.S.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100% because why would you do that when there's other developing worldwide markets where this would absolutely just be perfect?
This is what they say.
Yeah.
Mozilla's executive, Mitchell Baker, says that CNET said to CNET that there are currently no plans to launch in the U.S. just yet. Why? Well, at the OpenMoko Summit in San Francisco, Baker emphasized that the company's focus is on marketing to developing nations, as it's a space largely ignored by mobile heavyweights such as Apple and Google. That
Very
said,
smart.
Firefox OS phones, primarily for developers, have been sold stateside via eBay in the past, so you never know what you might see.
Yeah, you could, if you want one bad enough, you can go get one. But and I think the key phrase there was the what'd you say, OpenMoko conference. I remember their phones, the early devices they had. It could not have tanked harder here locally.
Yeah.
So I think they've kind of learned their lesson in that they need to go where the phones are wanted.
So, going into developing nations, there's not a ton of money to be made directly from customers there. That's going to be a carrier and OEM relationship, which I'm a little luke on.
Yeah.
But it seems like an extremely practical decision, right?
I think it's Why jump into a Shark Tank full of full of
Tank's
piranhas
the way
and
to
sharks
put it.
and whatnot when you
Yeah.
can go to nice clean open waters that are safe
Right.
and totally untouched?
Well, and it's actually,
sense.
I think at this point, this is just my opinion, I could be way wrong, but I think it's more of an uphill battle than it is desktop Linux fighting Windows, right?
Way big. This is way worse now. Way
Android
way
has
more.
way more deployment than even Windows desktops do at this point, and it is continuing to accelerate. It is just going nutso, right?
Well, and young people are all about the Android. I mean, that's just where they're at. That's where their brains are at. And so
Right,
you're competing against that, and that's your growing market at this point. So.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So here we have the Firefox and Mozilla guys saying, I don't think we're going to crack that US nut just yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to later. It doesn't mean that somebody might launch a phone and put Firefox OS on it, right? Or maybe we'll get images on hardware for like the Nexus or
And what's
something
cool,
like that.
it's open source. They're free to do it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So we could still have something happen here in the US. But at the same time, we have on the other side of this sort of game is Canonical and Ubuntu Touch. And they've just announced that on 14.04, which is going to be the LTS release of Ubuntu, they'll be focusing on the tablet.
Oh. Actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that actually makes more sense to me, actually, in a
So,
lot of ways.
yeah, more, yeah. So,
really
so
does.
for April's 2014 release of 14.04, Canonical are aiming to release version 1.0 of the Ubuntu Touch for tablets for the Nexus 7 and 10 hardware.
Interesting.
This is a quote here, I believe, from John. He says, "We're working on improving Side Stage, the Windows 8-like feature for running two applications on a screen side by side. To make use of many Ubuntu's core apps will also be adapted to become convergent, better to make use for large-scale tablet workflows. So that, to me, sounds like they're going to be rewriting a lot of the standard Ubuntu apps.
Okay.
Several apps will have to be redesigned.
Wow.
Jono says that the press carriers and OEMs are excited by a tablet OS story, adding that tablets are easy for people to ship due to the need to pass through fewer regulatory checks and certifications.
Okay.
And then I think OMG Ubuntu goes on to either speculate or have informed conclusion. They say, with no major carriers or OEMs just yet to signal plans to adopt Ubuntu Phone, Canonical's mobile plans may fare better on tablets. The cost to market is lower, with smaller resellers able to buy and import no-brand tablets from abroad and install the OS themselves.
That actually is, for the first time in a long time, is the most logical thing I've heard come out of that whole scene. I mean, that actually is arguably making sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I'm not saying it's like spot on perfect, but it's not half bad. There's some logic in what they're saying.
But it doesn't feel that genius to me, because when we were talking about this a year ago or however long it's been, that was my first comment is why are they focusing on phones when they could be focusing on tablets? I mean, you go back and look at the record, that was exactly what I said, because it seems so obvious. And here we have Firefox OS saying, you know what, we're not even going to try to crack that nut. Right. The Android lock is too firm. The iOS lock is too firm. Windows, that is being fueled by the Microsoft Corporation, who has the deals, who has bought a mobile company and still can't crack that nut, can't do it. So we think we're going to focus on other markets. Meanwhile, Canonical had said all along, well, we're going to go after phones, and then they start not to get traction and say, oh, well, we're going to focus on tablets now. It does make sense. My question to you is this an about face saying we're pulling back on phones, or is this we got phones where we want it, we're going to kind of leave it there for a little bit, and then we're going to go work on tablets and get that where we want it, and then we're going to pick up working on everything again.
And this is just my interpretation. I think someone woke up and said, "Wow, why are we killing ourselves in the phone space when honestly there's a lot, as you pointed out, there's more lower end tablets, there's other devices, no name tablets, things like that. There's just more options and less OEM carrier nonsense to fight against. If you go with tablets, it's a wide open market, especially if they're going all over the world. It's just a lot simpler." And I think adoption, while it's still going to be tough, is going to be a lot simpler. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense to me than phones ever did. And I think they are trying to save face, honestly.
So, and I think there was in the Coda Radio subreddit, one of our Coda Radio listeners wrote in kind of upset.
Right.
Because he said, my team has been trying to write a desktop application for Ubuntu that we've invested a ton of money on, and we feel like Canonical has gone completely schizo on us. First of all, they tell us to rewrite everything and focus on making the best possible mobile apps ever, and then we get 6 months into that, and now they're telling us, stop what you're doing, make an app for a tablet, but also make it work on the desktop. Yeah. We don't have a full story there, which I love how they use this story phrase all the time.
Yeah, the PR speak.
I know, but it's cute that they share it amongst each other, so that way they're all saying the same adorable PR speak. So they have this story that he feels like keeps changing. So he, as a developer, before he even gets version 1.0 out of his shop, they've already had a big focus change. And he says, at this point, I don't want to make a tablet and a mobile and a desktop app. I just want to make one really good app.
Well, I think the Ubuntu team has basically unanimously decided they're going to go with the choose your own adventure story. and I think they're the ones choosing the adventure. And I think that's probably the problem, is that it's jumping all around. And so developers are going to be like, you know what, it's been fun, but screw you. And I think that's something they better address, because I think the person that was venting has every right to. Imagine how frustrating that is to put all that time and effort into something.
I'm looking at our live chat, and live chat's pretty pro Android tablet. I have never really had my skirt blown up by any single Android tablet. In fact, I gave away my Nexus 7 to my grandpa because I was so meh about it. I just felt like it was okay, but it didn't. I felt like the iPad was a better tablet. So I feel like there is room in the tablet space for Ubuntu to come along, and I think it'd be great if I could.
Android tablets do suck. I mean, I'm going to put that out there. They really blow.
I feel like the hardware can be okay, but there's a few quirks, and I feel like some of the Android apps are great, but some of them still suck. And so there is at least a wedge where somebody with maybe a pre-inkling to go Ubuntu, I would pick that up. I'd run that, especially if I could run it on like the Nexus 10 hardware, which is really great hardware.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the key, is that you could have the best hardware in the world, and there's some tablets that have reasonably good hardware, but the stuff that you're working with is so mediocre. It's just not quite there yet. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know.
I feel like I hope it's not the latter, where they're planning to. I hope they're not saying to themselves, well, we've got the phone 1.0, and now we're going to get tablet to 1.0. Because if that's what they consider a 1.0, because to me, I consider it a good first try. It gets a gold star but it is definitely nowhere near a final product. Like, for example, there's not really a UI to turn the thing off, right? There's not a UI to reboot the thing. There's a lot of things missing, like proper memory management amongst the apps. There's tons of things missing that come standard on every mobile operating system that is shipping right now. Well, and they missed it.
Well, they don't seem to have good quality assurance. A good quality assurance team. They have great developers. They've got great engineers. They got great community managers. They got great folks. But it feels like the quality assurance isn't there.
They're going by quality of code, right?
Yeah, but see, that's wrong. They need someone to go through and say, okay, this doesn't make any sense. They need someone to go, well, why are we doing it this way when we could do it this way? Or how am I supposed to do this? They don't have someone making those hard calls, and that's something that other people, Apple and and other folks do have, and it shows, and so that's going to be a problem.
So Ubuntu phone development is not stopping, though. Ubuntu Phone 1.5 will be released in April. The milestone will feature improvements to the OS, including limits on the amount of memory apps can access, and battery life optimization. Other key aspects will be added, like vibration support, a way to shut down and restart the phone. App ratings, reviews, purchases will also feature, as well as a wide set of expanded scopes.
Good,
The Ubuntu desktop will likely won't see any major changes. With Unity 7 remaining in maintenance mode. This aims to be a preview there will be a preview session of Unity 8 running on Mir as a login option in 1404. So 13.10, pretty stale. 1404 will be pretty stale. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, though.
No, they're finding their new normal, and it's working for them, and that's great. That's fine.
Yeah, I actually think that's kind of what the market needs right now.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. I think what they really need to focus on is how they're dealing with the people that are trying to develop applications. I think that's the area they're really need to quit bouncing around on.
I feel bad for him because
it really is affecting
so
them.
They're still planning to iterate on the phone. They're planning now to work on the tablets, but it seems like if it is almost 2014 now.
Yeah.
And we're talking about an OS that doesn't have vibration support or a way to shut down the phone, right? Or purchase apps. And I understand these things take time, but it's already 2 years too late. Like, you thought Microsoft came into the game late.
Oh, yeah.
This is so I'm wondering if maybe really Canonical won't see success in the developing markets as well. That might be where they...
And that's my problem. And, of course, everybody's going to immediately go to, well, why are you guys hating on them so much? We hate on them. We're hating on their actions, not the company, not the team, not the development. We're hating on the fact that these are things that are avoidable, fixable, and would end up creating a truly awesome Android alternative that's not going to happen if they don't get a decent quality assurance team in there. Because this stuff someone needs to come in and be like, this is crap, that's stupid, why are you doing this? And it needs to be a third party, third company, third somebody that's not going to drink Mark's nonsense.
This is what's hard, though, as a small team that can only do so much.
And they need to outsource something somewhere to somebody that's going to call them on their nonsense and get a great product out there.
I, however, do want to try Ubuntu Touch on my tablet.
Oh, absolutely. I want it to be successful. I think that'd be awesome.
I think I'm more likely to find a long-term use case on the tablet than I am on the phone. I'm pretty happy with Android, and this is... Like, now Android is getting some really great hardware like the Nexus 5 and the HTC One. Maybe if I could put Ubuntu Touch on one of these pieces of hardware, that might change my mind.
But then it just kind of has a novelty feel until they iron out these other issues.
Yeah, whereas the tablet, it doesn't have to be a communications device so much. It can be a little rougher around the edges. A little bit.
If Ubuntu could get their act together, I would be so proud of them and so happy for them.
It'd be amazing.
I would absolutely just shout it from the mountaintops of how awesome they are. But they're not doing that. Instead, they're just, it's good enough, now let's go on to the next thing. Okay, now we kind of did phones, maybe sort of, now let's go to tablets. Stop. Take a breath. Get it right.
All the way done?
Yeah, get it right.
I think that's mainly what people are reacting to.
That's all I'm saying.
And they're just going a different way, I guess.
I hope they work it out. I think that'd be awesome.
All right, Matt. Well, that's all the news for this week. It's time for our openSUSE 13.1 review, and what a release it is. But first, I want to thank our segment sponsor, System 7D6. Woo! Creators of machines born to run Ubuntu. And look at this. Oh, man.
Yesterday I spent the better part of, 4 hours. I had the tab open, and I kept tabbing back to it, thinking, if I can visualize this in my lap enough, it's going to happen.
So the Darter Ultra Thin, not only is it got a touchscreen on it that makes me want to just play with stuff like crazy, but it also has a 1080p IPS display, Haswell processor in it. Look at the design of this thing. Super thin, super light, 5 hours of battery life, which is nothing to sneeze at under Linux.
That's right. And
Nothing.
before you even make any tweaks to, get more battery life out of it, out of the box, it's getting up to 5 hours.
Yeah, buddy.
So that's pretty good.
Under an inch thick, which is awesome. You can get Core i5 or i7 processor. This is an example of another System 76 machine that makes me drool. Look at that.
And I
Look
love
at
that you can
touchpad.
config the hell out of it. I mean, like you can go in and like when you're choosing your hardware, you can really soup that sucker up.
Plus, when you're talking 1080p on a 14.1 IPS display, that's going to look incredible. That's going to be you put 16 gigs of RAM in this thing. You put an i7 processor, 1080p display. That
Decent
is going
res,
to be
too,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh
Good
yeah.
stuff,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. There's lots of great
Oh,
machines.
and the Wi-Fi. Scroll back down to that and read those options out
on
there.
the wireless, the Intel Centrino
AC.
AC 802.11 AC. Nice.
Yeah, you won't see that in many other vendors. Trust me.
And of course, there's always, if you want the workstation performance, if you want something that's going to really chew through your job, the Leopard Extreme.
Oh yes.
Which we might have in house very soon.
I hope
with its water cooled CPU, its easy rack mountable hard drives, its nice large fan cooling.
Yep.
This, my friends, looks like a machine that would rock Linux for years.
And what's interesting is a lot of folks are out there thinking, "Oh, that's great, but it only ships in the U.S." and that is not true. They actually do ship overseas. You just got to go to their shipping page and look.
So, big thank you to System 76. Look,
Big
you
thanks.
guys, when you're running Linux, you don't want to have to fight with your hardware, and you want something that's going to work with all the different distros you throw at it, from Ubuntu to openSUSE, Arch,
Right.
Fedora, you name it. And that's where System 76 comes in. Plus, these machines work with Linux forever, ever.
Yep.
Both Matt and I have System 76 machines that go back years and years and years.
I installed openSUSE on my 2008 System 76 notebook.
Really? Nice.
Runs like a champ.
Nice. Very
Worked.
cool. So thank you to System 76 for sponsoring this segment of the Linux Action Show. All right. Well, Matt, so here we are at openSUSE 13.1. Fun fact, openSUSE has a new release every 8 months.
Yes.
And there are 3 per version. So you have a .1, a .2, and a .3. So this is 13.1.
Right.
So a .1 release comes out every other November. And 13.1 has been really focused on stability, on
Yes.
making it enterprise grade. And as such, this is going to be one of their evergreen releases. So it means it's going to have 3 years of support. That is
Kind of a long-term release kind of scenario. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, right there. That's big. So here's a couple of the essentials for openSUSE right off the top before we get into all of the feely stuff. Linux 3.1.1. They've done extensive work on 64-bit ARM support as well. There's also a 32-bit ARM version with an image available for Raspberry Pis. They weren't available as of recording right now, but they're going to be available later.
Which is awesome.
Built-in support, so Amazon users can mount S3 buckets to their file system. Nice. Samba 4.1, Systemd 2.08. Yast has been ported to Ruby, and like I mentioned, the 3-year support. So that's some of the highlights of this version
The real
of
meat
SUSE.
and potatoes of it. The stuff that I think is really sells it.
So it's funny, I don't really. This might come up actually during the Fedora review. But when we do Ubuntu or we do a lot of different distros, I never really feel compelled anymore to talk about the installation. I kind of feel like that's
Right.
something that we talked about a lot back in the day, but these days installation's been solved. However, openSUSE does something kind of interesting. They offer you a full, straight-up DVD with every desktop combo available on it. You boot from that sucker, and it goes right into full-fledged, full-screen installer mode. No live desktops.
That's right.
Boom, you're in an old-school installer. And they also offer a GNOME and KDE live CD, which then it's this old song and dance you already know.
Well, but I think the installation deserves a little more attention on a couple things that I love. For one thing, it has the option of suggesting a home partition. Awesome.
Yes.
That's something that is missing from some other popular distributions.
You know what's really cool too,
So-
but while you're on the partitioning thing, is the released version of 13.1 is using extended 4 as the default
Right.
file system, but there's a checkbox. And if you say use ButterFS,
Yes.
it will not only use ButterFS, but it does like an intelligent ButterFS layout where it creates sub-volumes for like your temp folder, sub-volumes for your home.
You don't have to know how to partition squat.
No.
Let it do it for you.
But it does it in such a way that later, if you start to feel pressure on those sub-volumes, you can grow them. Like it gives you like this expandable drive layout if you choose
Right.
ButterFS. The other thing I thought was really cool about the partitioner is when you're in there, you can actually go in and mount like network mounts, like NFS mounts inside the installer.
The partitioning is arguably, in my opinion, the best I've ever used.
Yeah.
If you're a power user.
Well, what's so awesome about it is it can literally be you check a box and then you're good, or you can open up, like you said, one of the most powerful partition editors out there. It's
really great.
It's really neat how they do that. So let's talk a little bit about. I want to show the GNOME desktop, the XFCE desktop, and the KDE desktop.
Okay.
I want to start with the KDE desktop because I feel like that's the premier desktop.
It
on
is.
SUSE.
They really delivered, and that's really, I think, where they marry best. They really.
And there's a lot of KDE folks at SUSE, so that makes sense, right? So here we go. This here is openSUSE 13.1. This is not running on my Bonobo. This is actually running on a studio machine. I'll get into that towards the end of the review, why that is. But it's a very clean implementation of KDE. I've done a few tweaks because I've been running it for the week and I just couldn't help myself.
Yeah,
it's fairly stock now, and you'll notice the fonts are not amazing, but it's totally usable.
but it's easily fixed. I mean, like any distro, you can always fix that.
Let me show you a couple of things that really are like how SUSE integrates with KDE that really no other distro does.
Right.
First of all, the package management. When you have an update, there's a Plasma widget that goes out and detects the updates, and you can actually install the updates right here from within this Plasma widget. This is so nice, and you can also tell it to go out and check for new updates. And it'll give you notifications. You can, and then the other thing is other software management applications, all using PackageKit, I assume, can say, oh, you know what, your KDE applet is actually using the package manager right now. Would you like me to ask it to quit? And it'll actually send it a quit command. So you can see right there, I'm refreshing my software repo in the Plasma widget, and they also have a GNOME widget, so there's another.
Look how gorgeous that is.
Isn't that nice?
It's just like it feels, and I see what you say. You're saying about the whole modern feeling thing.
Yeah,
you really feel that here.
Like if you're not watching the video version, they have a very slick animation that comes up.
Yeah.
It's searching. And look at that. Look how slick that is, and I'm all doing it from the notification tray in my desktop.
That's awesome.
That is,
and this is a real props to KDE, but I also would give props to SUSE's implementation of KDE in this particular instance.
Yeah, that right there is so nice.
Really sexy.
One of the other things that KDE ships with, or that SUSE has done really well, is their management tools will detect if you're on a Qt desktop or a GTK desktop, and then present you that management tool in either Qt or GTK. So here is Yast on the KDE desktop using Qt.
Right.
And it looks a little different under GNOME. I'll show you that later. But Yast remains the sort of interesting beast, right? Because it's one of these things where I could see a lot of power users could kind of put their nose up at it.
But at the same time, it has power user features, like it has an adult firewall.
Yeah,
this is not some the uncomplicated firewall from Ubuntu. This is an adult's firewall. This is seriously really good, powerful tools.
And take a look at this. So I don't know. I'm using. I decided to go with ButterFS for my file systems here, and here is these are file system snapshots. So there's Zipper Package Manager. When it does an action like what I just did, as far as updating my system. It handles the file system snapshotting for you automatically in the background. Nice. And so now going through Yast, I can look at my files. So here is the pre and post. Here's a snapshot. And you can see my time, Saturday, November 16th, Friday. And you can see here's the ones I did this morning, right?
Oh yeah.
So if I wanted to, I could go look at the files that were changed as of those updates, and then I can browse all the different things that were just changed, and I can say restore from the previous version, restore the second version. And I could actually roll back this entire tree of changes that were just made. So as a use case
scenario, it's like, oh wow, such and such just borked, something, and I need to fix it.
Right.
You can go in and do that.
See,
really easy.
Again, enterprise grade here, right? This is an enterprise grade feature.
That's what they want.
We just updated the staff member's computer. It borked something. Let's roll back, right? And the fact that they include this tool to do this, they include the snapshotting for you automatically. Other package managers, you can set this up.
It reminds me of like an adult's version of System Restore, but it's instead of the kiddie restore everything kind of crap, it's actually it allows you to pick and choose what you want to restore.
Check out this one. This is another neat one here in Yast. Security Center and Hardening.
Oh yes,
this is sort of like a light audit of your system just to see where it's at from an overview standpoint. So here I can see that I have remote access to Display Manager. That's turned on, and so the security status is bad on that. Right. And I did that so I could do some remote management.
Sure, right.
But it lets me know, hey, by the way, remember like a week ago you turned this on? You didn't really need to. Is DHCP daemon in a chroot? Nope. So here's help on how you do that, right? And you click on that, it brings up the article on how to do that.
Which is fantastic. I mean, it's like all the stuff, it's like you want to harden your system, but you don't want to spend a lot of time hunting down and figuring this out. Let it do it for you.
What are my password settings? Check for new passwords, acceptable password length. I can now obviously, if you know how to use the underlying tools, you could set all of this. But the fact that they expose this for me is really nice because it just puts it all in one spot. Here's my boot settings, right? Interpretation of what Control Delete does. Again, stuff you can figure out. How many failed login attempts you want to allow.
That's cool.
It's so nice to put all of this in one spot for me to review and give me a report on. And then I could also say, hey, yeah, I followed the openSUSE checklist, and now I'm safe, I'm secure, or at least reasonably so. Another great example is the NFS client. You want to mount an NFS share? Super easy to do on the command line, but again, they give you a really nice UI here. So here I've mounted my Synology NAS under Mount NFS, and I can go in here and you can see I've defined the mount points, the server I
Oh,
want,
yeah.
where I want to mount, where I want to go to, the default mount options. You click OK, and now I have that file system mounted.
You know, I could also see this being really effective for. There's obviously Windows system admins out there that they've touched on Linux a little bit, but maybe they're not really comfortable spending a ton of time in the command line, and they're just needing to do something real quick. This allows them to kind of get their feet wet and ease into it softly.
The other thing, before we just get off YAST completely, because I don't
Sure.
want to, I don't want this whole review to devolve into a YAST discussion.
No,
but
no,
I
no.
find it interesting the way that they are reasonably pulling out of YAST 2 when it's
Right.
appropriate. So right now they're sort of doing that with package management. They're not fully out of YAST yet,
But they're getting there.
They're getting there. They have a KDE, based or GTK based, depending on what desktop you're on, software manager that's outside of YAST. But one of the other things they've done is they're handing over display configuration
Yes.
now to the desktop
And
manager.
they did a nice job of it too.
Yeah,
It's
this
really
is-
clean.
This here is the new display manager, and if I were to apply settings, it would break my HDMI connection. But the way I mirror these two desktops is I just drag them on top of each other, and now they're mirrored, right? And so this is how you manage multiple screens under openSUSE, under KDE.
I mean, you can't get any simpler than going, I want it over here, I
Right.
want it over there, I want it above or below.
And now that functionality has been removed from YAST, and now it's been placed squarely into KDE camp. And I think it's great. And this is one of the first times we see this tool on a distro, so that's really cool.
They did a nice job.
Yeah. So that's the KDE desktop. It's KDE 411, I think.
Yeah, I think 411.
I
Yeah,
did
believe
know.
so.
I probably should have. I
Oh,
did know
no.
at one point, but here I'll get us about KDE. It
Yeah,
is
well.
KDE 411
411
too.
Yeah.
Pretty recent version of KDE, and it is a fantastic implementation. The theme is gorgeous. I'll show you Steam in a minute. The Steam client looks great under this whole with the overall Steam theme. So that's all pretty nice.
Good stuff.
So I love the updater and integration with the Plasma widget. I like that YAST has been ported to Ruby, but I've noticed no difference in functionality.
Yeah, it seems like it's nice and fast. The functionality's there, and the Ruby thing seems to be working out for them. So I'm pretty happy with that.
So let's take a look at the XFCE desktop.
Yes.
Now the XFCE desktop is not. I wouldn't classify it as a premier desktop for.
no. This is when you're trying to go minimalist in your yeah.
Yeah. So I have a zoom shot here, which I apologize for that, but you can see here's XFCE. It's pretty straightforward. They have a menu down here in the corner that you can't see very well right now. And they don't have an updater in it. Oh, they do. Never mind.
Yeah,
I was
they
gonna
should
say.
have an updater. They're yeah.
Okay, it's just not quite the same as KDE because they don't get a little thing down here, but they do get a little notification, so that's
And
good.
they do a pretty good job. It's a minimalist updater, but it certainly does the job nicely.
It's XFCE, Matt. I mean, it's
it's what it is.
I don't have a lot to say about it. They haven't done a lot to it, right?
No, it's a very vanilla. I mean, the theme is very, very plain.
Yeah.
You can dress it up as much as you want, but
Yep.
yeah.
All right, so there's that one. So I'll go. I'll pause this, and then we'll fire up the GNOME 310 desktop. Did you try GNOME at all? Or did you do the whole thing on KDE?
I got into KDE and I was just like, ooh, pretty, and
Yeah.
I just stayed in KDE completely. I
Yeah.
did not try GNOME. GNOME just I can't. I don't know.
So
yeah.
I would say their GNOME
the
desktop.
way you feel about XFCE is the way I feel about GNOME. It's just kind of like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I understand.
It's like it wants to be KDE, but they can't. And that I've been reading about that. There's been a lot of bugs going back and forth, and just I didn't need it.
So the GNOME desktop's pretty straightforward. It's I believe it's GNOME 310 here. I'll pull
Yeah.
up our like settings or something. And if you've seen GNOME before, you've seen it here on. See, it's got the integrated title bar that you get in GNOME 310. Very nice. This is the GNOME 310.1,
Yep.
and
It performs well. I mean, it seems to do pretty good. So
yes, and the updater is integrated into the notifications tray in GNOME. So when there's an update, it slides up from the bottom.
which is good.
It is just a clean sort of, I wouldn't say totally hands-off, but about as hands-off as it's going to get
Sure.
for a GNOME desktop. But that's probably just fine because GNOME's pretty nice out of the box.
Yeah.
KDE needs a little more love.
Yeah, no, KDE needs. Yeah, you got to love on some KDE, and if and so for me, I'm probably going to go KDE or XFCE just because
Yeah.
I don't, if I want pretty, I'm going KDE. That's where I'm going to go.
It is funny because you wouldn't normally say that.
Yeah, I see, and with KDE, it's like on other distros, I can't seem to get there, but when I do it with openSUSE, especially, it's just
Hey, baby.
I love it. I don't know what it is. It's
It's
just
special kind of loving, man.
there's a marriage there with some fringe benefits or something. I don't know, man, but it's going on.
I understand.
Some swinging.
No.
I don't know what's happening there.
I mean, there's a reason why I installed this on a studio computer.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to remember to mention that at the end. But there is one test I now throw at every Linux distro.
Yeah, this is important.
I feel like it is important.
Yes.
And that is the Steam test.
Right.
Does it pass the Steam test? And so here we go. Here is Steam, and look how good this looks. Look at how at home Steam looks on this KDE desktop.
And it does the transparencies real smooth.
Oh, yeah.
It's not all weird.
So I'm running the proprietary ATI driver here, so that way I could get some good game performance.
Right.
I gotta say, more games fail to start than I'd like. It's not great. So Metro Last Light's currently...
And do you blame that on the driver, or do you blame that on the usage of Steam on this particular distro, or where'd you place that?
I don't know. I wouldn't blame it on the driver because I've gotten it working under ATI cards before.
So that's not the issue. Okay.
So
because ATI can be hit and miss. I got an ATI card, and that one does well, but I have another one that just fails all over the place.
In fact, I should mention I was using the free Radeon driver up until I decided to go to Steam, and it was working great.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
what I use on my computer now, actually.
I will say this: the free Radeon driver is doing a better job with HDMI out than the proprietary one. The proprietary one will only send an interlaced 60 hertz signal, and the free driver I could set to 30 progressive, which makes the text look better. Everything looks better if you can go progressive. So I thought that was interesting that I got more control, and not too surprising, but I decided to go with the proprietary driver so that way I could try out Steam here. Now, Metro Last Light, kind of the current AAA title.
Yeah, the thing you're wanting to play, right? I mean,
when I click play there, nothing happens.
Okay.
Nothing.
So if nothing's happening at all, it's probably not driver. That's probably something with your implementation.
War game, Airland Battle. I click play.
So yeah, that's Steam.
Oh, it started.
Oh, it started.
It didn't start last night. Maybe that was the driver. Okay, good. So and Trine works. A couple other games don't work. It's Half-Life 2 didn't work, and then after I loaded the driver, Half-Life 2 worked. So if you want to play Steam games, you got to get rid of the free driver.
Right. No, that's a given. That's a given.
Well, look, check this out. I'm kind of glad it's working now. I was a little bummed that it wasn't working last night. That's awesome. Yeah. So I feel like you. Boy, I don't even know how to get out of this thing. I feel like if you don't have Steam support, you're kind of in bad shape. So I was a little bummed that some games weren't working. However, it looks like this game is working. I don't have any idea how you get out of it.
I don't know.
This is I guess this is like an MMO, Matt.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it.
That's pretty wild. Okay, so I picked up a few games on Steam to try it out. Trine worked. Metro doesn't work. I haven't tried Glare yet. Let's see if Glare fires up, because I just installed a few more last night. Okay, good. Glare's a game.
You might try the one that didn't work again.
Metro?
Yeah, because I don't know if you updated anything recently.
Let's try it. I'll try Metro Last Light again. Come on, big money, big money, big money. No.
Wish it gave you some. Yeah. I don't know if there's
and there's another weird thing, like the Kerbal Space Program, really popular in our audience, right? It works. But let's see if it does it again.
See
what happens is it actually starts up here, but it has to load. And when it loads, the game itself works, but the menus are all blank.
Oh,
I can't read any of the menus, so I don't know. That could be a driver problem.
Yeah, see, that's why I keep coming back to this. Is just my experience with ATI. It either works or it doesn't. When it comes to gaming stuff and just anything in general, the proprietary driver is really hit and miss.
I would think though, like
just on the card, there's no consistency.
When this machine's hooked up over here, that computer has the same ATI video card in it.
Oh, does it? Okay,
and it works. But it's under Ubuntu 12.04.
Yeah, see that may be, and so maybe there's something going on there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be an openSUSE thing along with the proprietary driver. It's hard to say.
But overall, there's a lot of things in this release of openSUSE that really do make it feel like it's enterprise grade. Like it's an enterprise grade workstation.
And I'm probably not going to run games on openSUSE anyway. I'm probably going to be using it for work.
This is kind of, it seems like some games work. So you can see this menu right here is totally blank.
That doesn't really help, does it?
And then settings here, if I go into settings, these are all blank. Right.
Oh wow!
But if I load them on my Arch box right here, they're all there.
Interesting.
I don't really know. I kind of have to remember how to click around to get out of it because all the screens are blank. It must be some sort of video issue, but I just haven't had it on other ATI.
It'd be interesting to compare desktop environments too to see if you can duplicate that.
And maybe after openSUSE 13.1's been out for a little bit, there'll be some updates. One thing I'd love to see openSUSE do, and this is why. Here's where I'm at with it.
Okay.
For a production machine that I want to run for 3 years and I don't really want to have to hassle with it, it's perfect. And so in Studio, I got a few jobs like file encoding, Skype calls, Mumble that it doesn't need to be the latest version of anything to do that work.
Exactly.
In fact, it needs to be pretty static, really, so that way I always kind of can. It's a known quantity. This for me is now replacing Ubuntu LTS for this.
Oh wow!
This to me is
I would agree.
And I'll tell you a little more reason why. Is it goes into the structure of openSUSE. There's some similarities there between the way Red Hat and Fedora are linked. We talked about it in our interview with Joss last week. In fact, why don't I play? So specifically, when we talked to Joss, we were like, the question was framed as, is openSUSE going to one day go away because it's not a priority for SUSE because they're focused on the Enterprise Edition?
Sure.
And on the other hand, if it would happen, I don't think there's much SUSE left at that point. I mean, SUSE does.
So they're pretty connected. They're pretty intertwined. Yeah.
But it's a core thing, of course. Our core business is SUSE Linux Enterprise and all its various incarnations, and of course the management around it. But in the end, I mean, I would earlier see openSUSE become more important for SUSE. For example, in clouds, you often need to deploy, cheap, easy, up-to-date images on clouds. Well, openSUSE could play a bigger role as example. So, and SUSE offering a better upgrade path from openSUSE to SUSE Linux Enterprise is actually something we want to work on.
I see.
Makes sense.
So I would say it's going the other way.
That makes sense. So he says it's going the other way. And see, this, if you look at why Valve chose Ubuntu to release Steam on, it was this sweet spot of nexus of community, corporate backing, and deployment usage, right? Well, SUSE has the deployment on the enterprise side.
That's right.
And they have the corporate backing, and it sounds like it's a relationship where the enterprise side is fairly dependent on the openSUSE product itself.
I think so, yeah.
So they have to keep that going to keep the moneymaker going. So they're going to continue to support it. So you've got the benefits of a benevolent overseer who's financing the distribution, so it has a long-term viability to it, and it also plays a critical role for that company's primary product. And it's just enough, and then you combine that with the community governance. I think it's really sitting in the new sweet spot. Fedora's there too, but I think openSUSE's got one leg up for a user like me, and that's software.opensuse.org.
That really, really helps because, it really gives you some controls, and you'd be surprised what you find in there. It's really amazing.
Give an example of it. So, it's almost a little bit like the Arch repo meets PPAs, kind of in a sense. So
I think like Dropbox is in there, for example.
So let's do Dropbox. That's a great example.
I believe it's in there.
Oh, you know what? I already installed Dropbox, though.
Oh, did you? It'll show up.
Yeah. So here you go. So here's Dropbox. And you know what I could do is I can install it in my VM. I could install it in the VM real quick just to show you.
And immediately you get the plugins for Nautilus, Nemo.
Yeah. Isn't that nice?
Dolphin.
Isn't that really nice?
Great.
Like I loaded the Dolphin. First I installed the Dropbox one, and then I loaded the Dolphin one. And what's neat is whenever you install software from here, it subscribes you to the repo of that software. So then you get all future updates. So that's where I kind of say it kind of meets PPA a little bit because there's a repo aspect to it as well. So then you continue to get the updates. Here, I'll demo it for you here on this right here, Matt, is my my GNOME openSUSE 13.1 installation.
Okay.
So if you go to software.suse.com and then you can search for packages and make sure you've got 13.1 in there. And then let's do Dropbox, because that's a great one because it doesn't pull down too many dependencies.
Yeah, exactly.
So you click Dropbox here, and then it gives you the list of the versions available. Now, I would love to see a little like Arch repo voting style stuff
that
in
would
here,
be cool.
Sometimes there's multiple different options.
Even for the same, same
and I'm like, I don't really, like here, right? Like, I think I want the GNOME one, but do I want to click this? Do I want to click? I'd love to. So
there's network. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. But you figure that out eventually. You click the one-click install. Now, I actually haven't done this under GNOME yet. Okay, good. So it's associated under GNOME too. It says, would you like to open this YMP file with YAST? You say yes. Fires up YAST right here. Should prompt me for my password. So here you can see it's asking me which repos I want to subscribe to. It automatically selects the new Dropbox repo.
Right.
So I say next. It says, would you like to install Dropbox? It says, hey, if you continue here, you're going to end up installing Dropbox, fool. So I say, yeah, you know what? I'm totes cool with that. I put in my super secret complicated password that nobody would ever guess. I say install. And now it's just going to go out. And you see right there, it's saying, do you want to trust the GPG key?
I like that feature right there.
Yep. So I can see, okay, I'm going to trust this key. Now it goes out, pulls down the software packages that I need, and now it's going to install Dropbox, and I'm done.
That.
And now I will get every future version of Dropbox that goes to that repo as well. So it's a pretty nice system. The only tweak I would love to see made to this system right here is I would love to see, when I click on something here, I guess I would love to be able to browse this stuff from within the YAST tools is what I'm saying.
That would be nice. Yeah, and see, that's kind of what we were talking about in the interviews. It's just some sort of an environment that's built into the operating system and less of having to go to a web page through Firefox, because if you're using Chrome, it's not going to work. You actually have to do it through Firefox. So
I don't know. I don't.
At least you didn't used to. At least it didn't.
I think
in,
it might
in 12.3 it did.
Yeah, I think it might now.
Oh, does it now? Because in 12.3 that was not happening.
I can't remember if I did all under Firefox or not.
Yeah.
But to your point, so here's where, and it's not totally a fair comparison because Arch doesn't necessarily ship with this function out of the box. But on Arch, I don't even have to go that far. I just open up a terminal and I type packer-s Dropbox, right? And then the software is intelligent enough to go out and figure out which repo it's in, what dependencies I need, and pull all that down. And then I'm automatically subscribed to that package as well for future
while
updates.
it's doing that, you're doing something else.
Yeah.
You got the freedom.
There's just a lot of clicking, a lot of confirmation, a lot of searching. There's a lot of different options there. And it seems like you have this amazing front end of software.opensuse.org, but then it downloads but then you get this weird download a file, have it associated with Yast, have Yast open it. Like there's this disconnect of the tools there. It'd be nice if like when I'm just searching a package, I could just search that because it feels disconnected. It doesn't feel like they go together very well. And I for me, because I'm a maniac and like I live off of new code, like it's my crack, I always want the latest stuff. For my desktop, that's just enough of a killer feature that I'm kind of like, no thanks.
Right.
Tumbleweed and this don't quite solve it. Especially, this kind of also starts to fall apart when you're on Tumbleweed because a lot of these packages will say, sorry, this descriptor doesn't match your operating system. I can't load it. But, you know, if you're going to stick with 13.1 for a while, this system does work. It's just a couple of extra steps. I think it just could come a little closer together.
I think basically if you're looking more at availability and less at bleeding edge, then this is a really good option for you. Because a lot of people, they want the package availability, but they're not as concerned about having the absolute bleeding edge version of a package. And there's a number of people like that.
Also, just to note, the zipper command line tool is pretty powerful. That's the way you can install packages. I did a big system update using the command line, and it worked really well, and it was super fast. And my son even commented on how cool the progress display was. Yeah. Nice. So they got a pretty nice system there. And I did subscribe to a repo that's on this software.opensuse.org. I subscribed from the command line to the ATI driver. Just all from the command line. Never had to open up the web interface. Right. But I had to know the URL of the package and like all of this stuff. It was all doable from the command line. But also, Yast is great in end curses. So overall, I feel like if you're kind of wishy-washy on your current distro, whatever it might be, SUSE has a lot to offer, and they can give you a competent GNOME and XFCE desktop and a fantastic KDE desktop.
If you're someone that wants it to just work and you're wanting something that is not just something new and different, I think this is a good way of going because and
it's something that, honestly, with 13.1 being supported for 3 years and the combination of the openSUSE software repo, you're going to get, I think, more distance out of this long-term support release than you would out of something like an Ubuntu LTS. I think. I don't know. It's kind of a hard bet to make.
Having played with both, I felt like that I was a little more cutting edge with going with something on openSUSE than I was with going with Ubuntu.
Well, and here's the other thing:
it just felt that way.
If you're willing to live the Yast lifestyle, and Yast is, give it a shot.
Either love it or you hate it. Yeah, I mean, really, it's what it comes down to.
But I feel like you should give it a shot because if you can embrace it, SUSE feels like a totally complete operating system.
Yes.
Like from the installer to the management tools to the troubleshooting tools if you ever run into problems, to the file system restore capabilities, to the online update integration, all of it, it really feels like it is a complete operating system that runs on Linux.
That's, I think, the differentiator right there is I think you're absolutely nailed it. It doesn't feel like you're just running yet another distro. You're actually running a full-fledged experience.
Yeah.
I mean, top to bottom.
And it feels like it's really well engineered, too.
Oh, yeah.
So 13.1 I give it a total recommendation. In fact, I'm switching our Ubuntu 12.04 standard Skype machine over to 13.1. I got to work out. I guess there's a Skype bug there. I got to look into that.
He actually put it in his blog post, I believe.
So I got to look that up. But this is going to be the new studio production machine that does like the WebM encodings and all of this stuff. And I'm just going to run it, and I'm just going to see how 13.1 is operates 6, 7, 8 months in. It's going to be a kind of a long-term experiment machine for me. That's why I didn't load it on my Bonobo. I've got it under virtualization on the Bonobo. Sorry to keep going on and on, but one other thing. SUSE 13.1, excellent VirtualBox support. Even at the grub screen, I've got mouse pointer integration where the mouse pointer can come in and out of the screen without having to do the special host key. I mean, from beginning, I can click the full screen maximize window and it automatically resizes the resolution of the guest so it fits full screen. And I can minimize it, instantly flips back to the right resolution. One of the best from top to bottom VirtualBox
Did
integrations.
it already? Maybe they're installing the
It's gotta be
additions
at the
ahead of
kernel
time.
level,
Yeah.
It's at the kernel level,
additions
but
are
I mean, okay. One last other thing. One last other thing is if you want to play with KVM.
Yeah.
If you want to get your hands on.
Oh,
I still have it
definitely.
open?
Right? Yeah. No kidding.
This release here. So I'll show you. I installed some of the tools. I'll just walk you through it really quick because KVM is some seriously cool virtualization technology.
But
for
it's over a
Linux.
lot of people's heads, and this is a
Yeah.
nice way to introduce to it.
So you can just right here. I've already installed the tools. So it's you click install hypervisor tools, and then you choose if you want KVM or Zen, and then whatever I chose KVM, and then it goes out and pulls down everything you need. You reboot your machine, and now you've got front ends for creating virtual machines running under KVM, which is an excellent virtualizer, which has incredible performance, and the SUSE guys are at the forefront of some of this stuff. And the tools are just right there in YAST. It is such a cool way. You can run Windows in there. You can run other Linux distros in there. You can run them from a network share. You can run them on a local machine. You can manage them. You can take snapshots. It is seriously one of the easiest, and they're utilizing some Fedora technology here too, but it is seriously one of the easiest experiences to operate with KVM or Zen.
Nice.
So
Nice.
anyways,
Good
it's a great
stuff.
release, tons of enterprise features, but also if you're just sort of a Linux engineer and you just want a workstation to get work done, like Matt said, it's the adult
Exactly.
Linux.
Yep.
It's adult. If you want a Linux for adults, you got to go check out openSUSE 13.1. And because it has such great VirtualBox support, there's really no barrier to entry to just try it out and see how it works for you and then switch over later on. I do recommend you try it on some hardware though, because
Oh, yeah.
KWin sings on some nice hardware, even if you use the open source graphics.
It really does. And, I honestly think they need to change their slogan to Linux ... for adults.
And have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
All right, Matt. That's the Linux Action Show's look at openSUSE 13.1. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast. But hey, Matt.
Yeah.
I thought we'd go through the mail sack a little bit. Reach into that mail sack, dig around, see what we can pull out. What do you say?
Okay, well, I'm not finding the mail sack. You must have the mail sack.
All right, well, first
Go.
one comes from people, from somebody that people may have heard of before.
Oh, yeah.
He used to be a co-host on the Linux Action Show. His
Yes.
name is Brian. Now, I know you might not be familiar with him, but he's apparently now a book author.
Yeah, I read
And
about
he
that.
sent
He's
us in,
doing
he
pretty
says-
well, it looks like.
He says, "Hello, friends. I have written a children's book about Linux
Yep.
and a bunch of Linux distros because it needed to be written. I call it Linux for Hank, and
That's
it just
cool.
came out today. Just in case you want to help spread the word, he included a link to it for us, and we grabbed it. But you can also go find it over at lunduke.com/linux-4-.
And I believe that you have both a DRM free and then also a Kindle option, at least with one of them, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so. That's cool.
So I love the idea actually of like this is a great way to indoctrinate children early.
Yeah, I mean Microsoft's doing it. We need to, have Brian come along and help us fight for our side.
Yeah,
that's
and
cool.
one of those Windows guys got Microsoft
Right.
TechNet articles. Psh,
Yeah, right.
Where's that's no fun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
awesome.
Another a bit of feedback came in from Parker. He's a viewer of the Linux Action
Sure.
Show, and he said, "Could you do us a favor and talk about #Save Saeed on one of your shows?" Saeed is currently imprisoned, I believe, in Iran.
Oh, no.
And there's a Linux group of people out there that is trying to raise funds for him to get him out. An American pastor who's serving 8-year sentence in one of Iran's toughest prisons. Yeah. So there's some info about that in the show notes if that resonates with you. And then another thing I wanted to give a plug for, as long as we're giving plugs out to the community
Yeah.
at large, Linux Voice. Some of the guys behind Linux Format quit their job and decided to start off on their own adventure. Linux Voice will be a magazine where they give 50% of the profits back to the community. And we interviewed one of the guys behind Linux Voice in this week's episode of Linux Unplugged. We talked to Ben Everett, I believe
Yeah,
it was,
believe-
Everett. And we talked to him towards the top of Linux Unplugged, episode 14. So if you want to get more info on that, just head over and watch episode 14, Negative in the Practical Dimension.
Good stuff.
Yeah. We also went into the copious amount of tech issues we had before last week's last.
Yes.
They put us 2 hours late.
Yeah. Oh my
So the
gosh.
backstory's in
A
there.
lot of good information on what happened.
All right, Karim writes in. He says, "Why is there so much hate in the open source community?" Hi, Chris. Hi, Matt. And Mike from Coda Radio, if you're watching. We Linux folks like to hate on non-Linux beans. We blank your name your distro here. Linux likes to hate on those who don't use name your distro Linux. We also love to hate on Ubuntu. Even within the Linux camp, we like to hate on others who don't like our favorite desktop environment. And now we all like to hate on Mir. We hate on Apple, and we hate on Microsoft, and we like to hate on Oracle. On the development side, we hate C#, and we hate Java, and we hate Rails, and we hate PHP. We hate to write less code, and we hate to write a little more. We hate on everything.
Nailed it, yeah.
We like so very little. We see someone spreading the hate, we promptly jump on the bandwagon. Sometimes it feels like the only thing we love is to hate. Are we a bunch of very difficult to please 3-year-olds? Or maybe that we're all just Americans. Can't we just simply respect others' rights to their own opinions and agree to disagree? Maybe we all hate that as well. Maybe instead of taking everything personally, every criticism directed towards things we like, and taking arms to defend it, we should take a deep breath, count till 5, and begin any response with a smile. Hate mails can be sent directly to dev/Noel. Peace.
I like that. Yeah, right. No kidding.
Peace.
I actually, I think he really nailed it because, I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm ranting about something, I'm passionate, and you disagree with me, you probably don't really give a rat's butt what my opinion is on that subject. And that goes both ways with a lot of people. And I think we get really furious about things that, in the grand scheme of things, we're the only ones that really are invested in it. So, be passionate in a positive way. Don't spend your time being,
like you always say that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it has anything to be with American. What I think it is...
No, it's worldwide, trust me.
Yeah. Here's what happens. See, first of all, humans, they get involved, right? Like, when you become more educated about a topic... all of a sudden, the nuances of that topic become a lot more important because you clearly understand the ramifications of that. For example, somebody just introduces a completely different display manager.
Right.
Now, if you tell that to your average user, right over their head, right?
Be like, does that mean I can't game or can't do this or
That's
can't do that?
about the extent of their concern.
Yeah.
But you tell that to an informed Linux user, and they're like, well, what about compatibility issues? What about third-party drivers? What about, right? And we understand the ocean of ramifications there. And so because of that, it seems like a lot more is on the line. Yeah. Like maybe there's more at stake than people realize. And so people sort of galvanize around that. It sort of motivates them to really defend it because somebody has to, because this is, a lot of problems around this kind of thing. And the reality is the noisy, everybody knows this, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? So there's a lot of people who are like, you know what, man, just use whatever you want. If you want to use Ubuntu with Unity, have at it, Haas. We really don't care. I believe that is truly the majority. My long experience in the Linux community tells me that you can watch the community from afar and get one message.
Sure.
But if you look a couple of layers below that, you realize that the silent majority continues to code on.
True. Exactly. And just with both of us here, we may rail on, let's say, Ubuntu. We rail on them constantly. We also have Ubuntu boxes in our homes. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you got to understand, we're not just saying, oh, we don't use it and we think it's horrible. No, we're wanting to see it improve, and we actually are users of the products that we're railing on.
Yeah,
so
but what's funny about that is you and I, maybe it's because we sit here on the show and we talk about our views, we call it good, but neither one of us are the type of person who will go into a forum thread and just throw down over a technical topic.
Well, I can't speak for you, but for me, it's because I've become a cranky old cynical guy. And it's just like, I literally, I'm weighing it out. It's like, no one really gives a flying fart what I have to say in writing, anymore. So really, there's no value in me voicing it. Maybe I'll voice it on the show. And
I think sometimes there's too a little bit of a distraction element to it. It's much easier to think a lot more about Mir or Unity than it is about the NSA watching every single thing you do. Like one of them is a soul-crushing thing to think about, and one of them is like an intellectual challenge.
Yeah, one of them, good luck changing, and
then,
and the other one's the display manager.
Yeah, so you could be thinking about world disease all the time, or you could be thinking about display managers.
Exactly.
And if I'm a practical person, I'm going to focus my energy on the one that doesn't make me depressed.
Right, exactly, yeah.
That's totally, it's a little bit of escapism.
Well, and one you can actually have a dialogue on that,
Yeah,
totally.
And there's technical merits to discuss. I think you take all of those things, plus you have idle hands who need to make busy work, and it all kind of comes out. And really, if you've worked in a development shop in closed source companies, large companies, there is so much politics and strife underneath. But right?
Oh yeah, I'm not going to name names, but I experience it.
Yeah, but they have this big PR lid on top of it all that you see a little bit of things here and every now and then.
There's good and bad that happens, but there's a lot of drama.
Like we all just heard that Microsoft canceled their stack ranking system, and we've all heard about the drama that comes from that stack ranking system. But I bet you it's way worse than any of us actually know about. But they keep a lid on it. Open source, man. The laundry's out there for everybody to look at. It's all hanging in our backyard, and anybody can look at it, so we all see it. And I think when you consider that, it's actually a lot better than it could be.
Well, and then it becomes a matter of, I don't think they washed their sheets recently. There's a funk coming off of them, right? It's kind of dangling in the wind.
Those Manjaro underwears smell a little stale and out of date. That's all I'm saying.
Ripe!
Yeah, the Debian repo over there is getting a little ripe. Let's say something about that. Yeah,
Debian's got a skate mark. Okay.
So if you'd like to join us live and hang out in our chat room, and there's even more show between the segments, you can go over to jblive.tv on a Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific. And you can also go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to see the time in your local neck of the woods. I wanted to mention, if you're going to be around on a Saturday, I know it is getting to the sports ball season, but Sports Ball, we are doing a faux show Saturday, next Saturday. So let's see. What would that be? Today's the 17th, so it'll be Saturday the 23rd. We'll be doing 3 back-to-back episodes of the faux show. There'll be shenanigans had. It'll be a great live experience. I'd like to invite you to join us because we'd love to have a good live presence. And we don't usually do the faux show on Saturday, so if you've been looking for some Saturday live content from Jupiter Broadcasting, now's your chance. That show is a ton of fun to watch live.
Oh, yeah, it totally is.
We'll be starting, I think, at 10 or 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'll have it on the calendar, and I'd like to invite you to join us. And
although I got to say, the recorded version's funny, too.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to learn what my wife and I call the dick scraper.
I wasn't going to say nothing, not a word.
You know what my wife said to me after that episode?
I'm thinking she's going to kill
She said,
you.
you know, my family watches the faux
I know,
show.
right? Well, that's what my wife said. She's like, is she letting him get away with that? Because
I wouldn't have said it, but if
I'd have gotten clocked.
if you watch that episode, she gives me a look like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Right, yeah.
And I just verbalize what she non-verbally said to me.
There's like that fine line of how much you can get away with sometimes. Yeah.
It's fun, though. So,
yeah, totally.
Faux Show is a good experience if you want to watch it. It's definitely our most casual, loose talk show on the network. It's sort of like when you want to wind down at the end of the week, you don't want to have to worry about anything that's going to bother you. Just watch the Faux Show. It's good fun. Anything you want to send people out over the week?
Not a whole heck of a lot. You can go check me out on Facebook, as always, Matt Hartley Public there. Outside of that, no, just check us out on Linux Unplugged on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget you can find extensions that are open source at the bottom of our website. You install those extensions. They automatically tag your shopping session at ThinkGeek, Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy. Whenever you're shopping, a portion of that will go to the Jupiter Broadcasting Network. We're going to be talking about our 2014 plan soon, and you'll know why. We really appreciate it if you guys help us out with that because as the end of the year approaches, our expenses are going to skyrocket in the beginning of the year. It's going to be crazy territory, so we could definitely use your support. You can also just click the links at the bottom of our website before you shop at any of those sites, and it'll tag it. And it really takes the aggregate. Even if you're not buying anything, having the extension installed counts towards the overall clicks, which raises the overall percentage of revenue we do get when somebody does buy.
Which is awesome. That's
So,
all it takes.
And it's pretty small potatoes, but in aggregate it can make a difference. So we always appreciate if you guys want to help us going that way. All right, everyone. And email us. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com and pop that contact link and choose Linux Action Show from the drop down.
And the subreddit.
Yeah. And the subreddit, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Great place to send in ideas, start conversation threads, vote things up or down. If you see something really interesting happening in the world of Linux, link it there, and we'll see it.
And when you're wanting to post really wrong screen caps, that's the go-to place to do it. Because, boy, we're going to have some on this show, I'm sure.
I always love going there and like... Yeah, the pre-show got a little crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, Van Damme did the splits between semis, okay?
The finger was going to happen one way or the other. I mean, come on.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week.
I'm going to say it's really into really disgusting, crude innuendo about backdoors and all this.
I like that wipe my butt with your face is asking if I wash my hands.
Why am I laughing? Why is that so funny? God, God, I'm such a child.
So this guy logs in this morning. He's like, you know what I'm going to Nick wipe my butt with your face. That'll get him. I am not worthy. I am not worthy. You are my master. You are my master.
Must my Bidrid.
I bow to you, sir. Maybe if I switch to this guy, can I go over here and busticate this up? Yes.
Yes.
F, yes. F,
and you're about to be.
Okay, all right. So does it keep going, though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, F, yes. F, yes.
So you got to do more of your gaming this way. You got to come into the chat room and get.
Oh no! I did it too late. Oh no! Can I grab the Van Damme sack? Can I grab the? Oh, Matt, you got a good. Oh, nice, Matt.
Tough love.
Captain's log. Stardate 55173541775512513976617215416 Mark II.